Pandemonium on Legon campus, confusion in Bawku, and uncertainty among Menzgold customers. These and more make up the stories on The Pulse this afternoon. Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for having us in your homes. My name is Kojo Yankson. It's a pleasure to be with you. This afternoon, some students of the University of Ghana's Mensa Saba and Commonwealth Halls are on the warpath with the school's management over a decision to revoke their residency in the school. Under a new program announced 2 weeks ago, the university's council said all continuing male students in the two halls will lose their residential status starting this coming academic year, which all kicks off on the 14th of January. The idea is to quell the persistent violent clashes between students from the two halls. Now, we have a breakdown of that for you shortly, but this morning, an attempt by the students to hold a news conference to protest the school's decision was met with resistance from the management, who deployed security to stop them.
So are you saying that any student can just walk into the SRC building and start doing anything?
Why don't we have a press conference? Why?
Nobody is preventing you from having a press conference.
Let's not further. People are here.
Listen to me.
Okay,
please, you are in the University of Ghana.
Yes.
And the University of Ghana has rules. So you don't think that your own interest can override everything?
No. You can contact the SRC president.
So you call him for us.
You need the confirmation.
If you don't do that, you won't enter that place.
I'm not entering. You're using the phone.
You will not be there.
Why?
Please, let us talk to the one who...
The students then attempted to speak to the media outside the campus. Here too, they were followed by security. Right, now that news conference eventually did happen, but at a completely different location.
On 13th of December 2022, the university management issued a communique announcing that all continuing male students in Mensa Saba and Commonwealth Hall will lose their rooms. This arrangement is a precursor to welcome an in-out-out-out policy, which will be implemented upon successful execution of this decision. Today, we tell them, as students, we always cannot be at the receiving end of management's incompetence. No. Somewhere in 2020, after about 10 years of operating the diaspora halls, which is now UGL hostels, we as students did our part by paying the high hostel fees slapped on us. The university management failed their part to service the loan contracted to build this hall project, which has resulted in the privatization of these halls, and also a takeover of some annexes of other halls to be used as collateral. Once again, as students, we find ourselves victims of incompetence and mismanagement, as we are made to take a bitter pill of absorbing the monetary cost of the actions and inactions of management of this university. Today, we are compelled to cough up more than 3,800 cedis, being an increment in UGL residential fees to an already expensive residential fees of 2,980 Ghana cedis per year within a space of 2 years. The other traditional hall annexes, which have now been privatized, again due to incompetence of university management, also slabs different hostel fees on students higher than the students in different annexes of the same hall. The last time such a residence arrangement was implemented in the school was an in-out-out-in system to tackle accommodation deficits. However, after an assessment and report by external contractors, the findings revealed that the rooms should be decongested for good ventilation, and what is still now the inner rooms be made an open place, as the conversion has a long-term effect on the building. These and many others were the recommendations. Now, the university under Professor Ernest Aite as Vice-Chancellor undertook decongestion, abolished the then existing in-out-out-out-in policy, getting our students a place to be on campus to pursue our academic journey. This meant that parents and students would not worry about how to get accommodation, as University of Ghana is sited around an area where cost of living and accommodation is relatively very high. Fast forward to 2022, the university management has sat idle and looked on for over a decade for us to go back into accommodation crisis, and their solution is an in-out-out-out policy. We say to them today, the same way they sat and plan to roll out this obnoxious policy, which will take full effect by 2025, they should have that same plan for building more hostels to accommodate the ever-increasing student admissions by 2025.
Yes.
The university management, which fails to provide proper security for students, failed to have conclusive investigations, but has been quick to issue a wholesale sanction that affects all male continuing students in Mensa Saba Hall and Commonwealth Hall. The said riot, which by the report of management lasted for almost 4 hours, throughout this period of time, the university security were around, and a police patrol car was parked near the university guest house. Interestingly, we have confirmed that some top-level university management members were also near the guest house. And what did they do? Nothing. All these individuals and agencies could have dispersed and brought calm to this riot, but they did not act. They were very close, by an estimated 100 meters away, and watched on. This has made us believe that the university management had a grand scheme. They were overwhelmed by their incompetence and wanted an easy way out. So why not watch on, then use this opportunity to cripple the students' front and at the same time find a perceived solution to the accommodation problem? The Pro-VC for Academic and Student Affairs said on Radio Universe that investigations into the riots has not been concluded, yet the university has unreservedly sanctioned innocent continuing male students. Natural justice has been sacrificed on the altar of convenience. When he was asked that, why should the actions of a few affect the majority, he further went on to say, in every security situation, people who are not involved will get affected. If it happens everywhere. And when there is war, innocent people get killed. It is a reality of life. Is this the kind of leadership fit to oversee the welfare and affairs of students? No. The Pro-VC must resign.
Yes.
The university management maliciously brought out this information a week to the beginning of Christmas and expect parents and students to find money to pay an accommodation at a place which now costs over 3,800 cedis as compared to the about 1,000 cedis they would have paid in their original halls. Why burden parents and innocent students this way? This decision by university management is synonymous to the ideology behind the archaic trocosi system. Long-lasting solutions include a roundtable discussion by the main actors in these halls with no ostrich behavior about the existence of main actors like the traditional councils and the alumni of these halls. This current decision by management, we know, is malicious and not only limited to 1. Breaking the activism powerhouse of the students' front, 2. Weakening the alumni allegiance and affiliation of students to these halls upon completion of their studies, 3. Giving these two powerhouses a bone as a form of distraction, so we will not focus on the outrageous increments of residential and academic fees above the 15% approved by Parliament. Nonetheless, we say to University of Ghana management today that we will not remain resolute and we will not kowtow to such knee-jerk reactionary approach. Why does university management want to rid young level 100 of mentorship, senior coursemate advice, and the benefits that they enjoyed by having continuing students direct them when they were in the university? We would want to send a firm notice to university management that we will fight for our rights with all tools at our disposal. We will not stand and watch our future and that of other future generations jeopardized because you as management failed. We would have a legal battle, and we know and have capriciously crippled the JCR system in both halls, making it quite impossible to have leadership lead a charge. We tell them today that we have seen it, but it's impossible. But impossible is nothing. We shall push through and find leaders amongst us. From the ashes, the phoenix rises. So our fellow Vikings and Vandals, just like our national anthem says, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule.
Yeah, we'll be engaging these student leaders on their concerns shortly. But before that, let's break down the issue as we understand it. My colleague, Kweku Asante, is joining me for that. Kweku was also a resident of Commonwealth Hall during his time on the University of Ghana campus. Kweku, okay, break it down for those of us who have never been there. What exactly is the issue?
Well, Kojo, so there is this inter-hall rivalry in most of Ghana's public universities. In Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, there's a similar thing there. Even in UCC where you were, there's something similar. And so in the University of Ghana, this feud is between Commonwealth Hall, which is an all-male hall, and then Mensa Saba Hall. And so it is not clear exactly what is the antecedent to this conflict, but it has been going on for many years. So many years, even before I joined and even after I left, there is still a number of conflicts that keep happening. Indeed, a number of them have led to the burning of school properties. One recent one that happened there were some cars that were parked at the Mensa Saba Hall. They were all violently destroyed. There's been a number of them that has led to destruction of properties that belongs to the university, a number of them that have led to injuries that the university have had to take care of. And so the university have been trying to deal with this over the last few years. They've not been able to put a handle on it. And so the last one that happened that seemed to have broken the back of the camel was just about when school was about to go on vacation, when residents of Commonwealth Hall and residents of Mensa Saba Hall clashed just around the Mensa Saba Hall. A number of cars that were parked there, some of them belonging to the hall officials and other students, were completely destroyed. At one point, one particular car was razed down by fire. And so they have been going on for some time now. Management have not been able to suspend any student. They've not been able to hold any specific student as the ones behind these. They've also had cause to say that they are old residents of Mensa Saba Hall and Commonwealth Hall who, although having completed school so many years ago, keep coming back to the school to ferment the trouble, to ask these students to go ahead and do some of these things. And so, like I told you, when the last incident happened, the new Vice Chancellor, Professor Nanaba, decided to stamp her feet and take some critical measures. What they first decided to do was to transfer the hall master for Commonwealth Hall as well as the senior tutor. They relieved them of their duty. Management blamed them for not having taken strong stance to prevent the members or the residents in Commonwealth Hall from going out to engage in quote-unquote violence, because management have not been able to hold specific students responsible. But that was not to be. That was not to be all the actions management was going to take. Only 2 weeks ago, management announced a decision that has now drawn the anger of the student leaders on campus. Management says for Commonwealth Hall, for instance, all continuing students, that is level 200, 300, 400, are all going to lose their residence in those halls. Management says they will allow them to apply to other halls, but of course, it's not a given that if you apply to Liman or TF or any other hall that you get a hall. So that is for Commonwealth Hall. In terms of Saba, management is taking out all the male residents in the hall, just like they are doing with the Commonwealth Hall as well. But they are leaving the female students there. Management says they are going to populate these halls with level 100 students, freshmen and women who are now coming in to be in those halls. And the idea is that if these are fresh students who do not know the antecedent of these conflicts, who don't know why these violence keep happening, then that will not also happen. And then they are also going to add a number of graduate students. The students are concerned that this will affect student leadership, this will affect the hall affiliation system, and a number of what they call the student activism pride of these two halls. So it's been going on for years. Indeed, even for those of us point out specifically why Mensa Saba Hall and Commonwealth Hall students are fighting. And to give you an anecdote, when I went to level 100, I went there with a friend. He went to Mensa Saba Hall, I was in Commonwealth Hall. So with this tradition perpetuating, it meant that if there was any conflict and I was involved, for instance, and I met this friend of mine, you had to beat him up. You had to, and some of them had to be with kidnapping students and scraping off their hair, among other things. So it is against this background that management has decided that we have to take some tough measures. You know that in K University, management took a similar decision. Of course, it has not specifically ended the situation. But management feels like this could probably bring an end to the conflict on campus.
Right, let me ask you this. You were there and you were swept into this culture. You were made to understand that the Mensa Saba Hall students are your rivals. Do you know, did you ever find out what the originating incident was? The reason why these two halls are rivals?
That is the irony around this conflict, because the average University of Ghana student, the average student in these two halls does not have an idea as to what exactly is happening. Some of them are simply roped in, they are assimilated, they are oriented to think that if you are in Commonwealth Hall and you are male, the male student in the Mensa Sabah Hall is your rival, not just rival, is your enemy, and vice versa. And so it's gone on for a long time. The ordinary student, like I'm saying, does not even have an idea why they have to fight.
Then it makes me wonder, will the authorities plan to bring in freshers who have no knowledge of the history and in some way break, years of rivalry? Will it even work? Those who are fighting don't know why they are fighting. So
indeed, that is the concern people have shared, Kojo. For instance, on campus, there are times where you have friends in Commonwealth or maybe in final year, they decided to go to Pent or another hall. And then all of a sudden they changed. They did not have to engage in all the quote-unquote rowdy behavior. And then there is someone in Pent or Liman or J. Nelson for 3 years. And they came to say Commonwealth or Mensa Sabah Hall in their final year. Then all of a sudden they are assimilated into the culture. So it has to do with something within the hearts of residents that management will have to be able to put a lid on. Because like I told you, KN University decided to do the same thing. Indeed, they changed Katanga and Konti. It used to be all male halls. They changed them to mixed halls. They brought in more females, particularly in level 100. That did not stop the conflict. Indeed, just before the school went on vacation, there was a similar conflict that led to injuries and destruction of properties on campus. So the question people have been asking is, management needs to be able to go down to the root of why exactly students are fighting each other. And armed with that knowledge, then you will be able to fight whatever it is that is happening. But without knowing the root cause, changing this is just symptomatic. And then at the end of the day, these new level 100s that you bring will keep up doing something that has been assimilated into the tradition of the hall as what they have to do and as the culture of these two halls.
So, ultimately, are there any students who want this to end? Any Mensa Sabah or Commonwealth Hall students who actually want the conflict to end?
Indeed, in an earlier statement that these two halls put out together, and quote unquote, they've been rival. But when this decision was taken by management, they had to come together to fight it. And you've seen them there hold the press conference today. About 2 weeks ago, they put out a statement saying that management has been negligent and that they themselves, as students, want this to end. And they've been eliciting the support of management over the years to try and end this. But management has not given them that ear. And so from the student perspective, they claim that they want this to end and that management has to do more. And that these decisions that management is taking is simply putting the responsibilities on their shoulder instead of management admitting that they've been reticent in terms of being able to deal with this situation. So from the perspectives of these two halls, who you see there with a Commonwealth or cloth and people wearing Mensa Sabah, this is ironic. This is almost like the first time I'm seeing residents on both sides doing this. Sometimes when in sports, there's violence. Almost everything that happened between these two halls leads to some fight of a sort. But this time around, they are coming back united. It means that if management is able to leverage on the current unity, that these two halls are coming together to form an alliance of a sort, then they can deal with the conflict. But if not, these new level 100s that you may bring in, you may not know who will come and see them. Already management is deciding that they're going to charge every student 300 Ghana cedis to install some security entrance at the various halls of residence, which will not allow persons who are not ordinarily resident to be able to go in there. These are some of the decisions management is taking. But as whether it will work or not, the KNUST story is there for people to view that some of these decisions, although they may be far-reaching, do not necessarily work.
Now, we heard the student leaders in their statement talk about congestion. Does this play any role at all in the conflict?
Indeed, that is also the point some people agree, that over the years, management have been trying to deal with accommodation crisis on campus. Almost every year, we have to report on a number of students who have been admitted not getting accommodation on campus. So if you're coming from Bolgatanga, you're coming from Tamale, and you're not getting a bed on campus, you need to get something outside. At the last count, the University of Ghana have about 60,000 students or more, indeed. And those who put a number around 70,000. The number of beds on campus is not even up to 20,000. So the backlog is huge. There are a number of students who will simply not get a bed through their 4-year stay on campus. So the theory that some others have been propounding is that Because management has not been able to deal with the accommodation crisis on campus, they find this as a means to introduce a new policy called the in-out-out policy. That is to say that if you come to level 100, you are in. You get a bed on campus. But when you go to level 200, level 300, and level 400, then you have to fend for yourself. You need to go and find accommodation either outside of campus or make do with some of the private hostels on campus. Currently, if you go to the traditional halls, Menzgold Hall is one, Commonwealth Hall is one, Quota Hall, Ekwafu Hall, and Legon Hall. These halls mainly have the main halls that is populated by 3 students in a room. Ordinarily, these rooms were supposed to be filled by only a student, one person in the bigger room, and what is now an inner room that is being filled with someone used to be a balcony, which has now been converted into a room that one person sleeps in there. And so the accommodation challenge on the University of Ghana campus has been acute over the past few years. And so there are those who have said that management is latching upon this to introduce this raft of measures which would deal with the accommodation crisis on campus, because then when the continuing students are phased out, level 100 students will get a bed, because those are the ones management care about the most. If you're on level 300 and 400, chances are you can fend for yourself, you can find somewhere to be on campus for you.
And the students don't like the idea of congestion being dealt with? They prefer congestion?
Well, it's not necessarily so. They want the accommodation crisis to be dealt with. Indeed, over the past few months, prior to this academic year, there were some protests on campus with students calling on university management to deal with the accommodation crisis on campus. They only feel management is taking an opportunistic view of this, but they also against the in-out-out policy that management is seeking to introduce. With the current accommodation arrangement we have, Kojo, if you're admitted to the University of Ghana and you got a bed in Commonwealth Hall, you are guaranteed that bed until you complete your 4-year stay on campus. What this will now mean is that if you come to level 100 and you get a bed at, say, Sabah Hall or Legon Hall, after your level 100, you lose that bed and you have to find another bed either in a private hostel or in any of those private hostels that are around campus. And the students do not like this. They say that the University of Ghana have some vast amount of land. They should do PPP, private partnership, to get a number of hostels built so that more students will get it. University of Ghana, Commonwealth, for instance, have been trying to build an annex for a number of years now, but that process has been frustrated by management, led by this same Vice Chancellor, and the management of these halls have raised some significant concerns about that. So they feel like it's not as though they are against management plans to fix the accommodation crisis on campus. They say, one, this will not fix it. This is only postponing the inevitable. And management is taking undue advantage of the violence on campus between these two halls to take these measures, which will not last in the scheme of things.
Kojo Yankson, thank you so much for that quite in-depth breakdown of the history behind the conflict between Commonwealth and Mensa Saba halls on Legon campus of the University of Ghana. Now, it's not only the current students that are concerned about this situation. Former students are as well. Jeffrey Addo is a former student. He joins us with a little bit more on this. Now, Jeff, thank you for your time. Tell us, when did you leave University of Ghana?
All right, thank you too. So I left University of Ghana in August 2019. Okay, right. So that's like 3 years ago.
Yeah, you've been out for 3 years. So why are you still concerned about what's happening?
Okay, so as we know, when you are completed, when you are done with school, okay, you become an alumni, okay, of both your hall of residence and also the school as a whole. Okay, so as an alumni, the continuous students, okay, on campus have shared some of their grievances with me. Okay, and so I also took an interest in it, okay, to also try and help them out, okay, in their cause.
Okay, so I mean, talk to me. How do you feel about the university management's plans and processes so far? In, out, 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 to break the cycle of violence. Do you think that will work?
Honestly speaking, I don't think so. Okay, because the in-out-out system was abolished 10 years ago. okay, under the leadership of Professor Aite, the then VC of Legon. Okay, that was in 2012. Okay, I was even in school by then. Okay, so honestly, I didn't even meet the in-out-out system. I don't know how it feels, and I even don't want to have a feel of it. Okay, because if I apply for a hall, okay, in my first year, okay, and there's a system in place which guarantees my stay on campus for the next 4 years. I think it is the best system to be used. Okay, I don't know why management is trying to change the in system to the old abolished
surely
in-out-out
management's
system.
reasoning is obvious, isn't it? Management thinks that this fighting is institutionalized, and when people come in, they are sucked into an existing culture. They want to remove the existing culture, so there's nothing to suck you in when you come in. Do you not think that will stop the conflict?
I don't think so. Okay, as my colleague said earlier, okay, students themselves have tried engaging management, okay, in one way or the other as to how to bring a halt to all these violent issues on campus. But management has refused to give a listening ear to the students' body. Okay, currently, Menzgold Hall and then Commonwealth Hall have no JCR in place to even voice out what they think or what they also want to contribute to the decision management is taking at the moment. Okay, so it's sort of like an autonomous body in place right now, which is not helping the students and the entire university body at all. Okay, so I disagree with that. Okay.
Okay, so what would your solution be? How do we stop the violence?
With the violence, it's stoppable. Okay, it can be just as a goal, but I believe measures has to be put in place. Okay, as to which the thing is, Commonwealth Hall feels they are superior over any other hall on the university campus. Okay, it's the same way Menzgold Hall also feels. Okay, so if I could remember, during my stay on campus, okay, the then Dean of Students, Professor Dr. Bob King, okay, he placed some measures in place, okay, that during matriculations, okay, where, every hall marches their freshers to the grounds, and then, they escort them there, and then they can have their matriculation process. Okay, now during this escorting, sometimes Commonwealth, uses the path of Saba, and then there's a clash and all that. Okay, so what he did was he allocated routes, okay, that these two various halls could use, during such events. And ever since then, the clashes that used to happen during matriculation was stopped. It was eradicated. You understand? Okay, so there are various measures that even management would give a listening ear to the students' body. We can suggest to them. Okay, we can suggest to them as to the ways and how, we can help abolish this whole rivalry stuff.
I think that's what I'm asking you. What are these suggestions? What would you suggest to management as solutions?
Okay, so for example, okay, during sporting activities, okay, let's say there's a b-ball match between Commonwealth Hall and Saba Hall. Okay, ideally, we are to go there to cheer on our players. Okay, but then if we don't win, okay, out of anger, out of frustration, we may try to, do some skirmishes. Okay, so, in events like this, okay, you can allow just the players be at the venue to have their game on. Okay, so no supporters will be around. Okay, and
what would be
in doing that
of a sports event that nobody can watch? What would be the point of it?
Okay, so right now, as we are speaking, as via Zoom, okay, we can just simply stream this live, okay, that we can sit in our hall of residence and, be watching this. Afterwards, the players will come back to the hall, we can jubilate with them. We've helped keep a situation. You understand? So for the measures, they are a lot. We can cite them up depending on the event that will, unfold at the moment. Okay, but then they just refuse to, listen to us or involve us in any decision making. That's the point.
So does the alumni intend to, pull up a chair and take a seat at the table in finding a solution? Do you intend to communicate officially with the administration of the university?
We have gone to the various halls to engage the hall management, and all we were told is that they are working for the management of the schools and not the students. And so what the management would instruct them to do is what they are going to do. So that means no amount of meeting or calls at their end will yield results. Okay, so that is the point we are in now. Okay, because when this decision came on the 13th of December, it was during vacation. We all vacated, knowing that we are in the in system, only to get home, preparing for Christmas, and then management just throws this at us that next semester when you come to school is in, out. I'm taking all continuous students out of their various hall. How can you do, such a thing? Where do you want our parents to get money to, pay for new accommodation in this new halls? We charge more than what the traditional halls are charging. And the hardship in the country at the moment. You understand? Okay, so this and more is what we are telling management, that we beg them. I'm using your platform to appeal to them. Our younger ones are crying out. Their parents are crying out and begging them that they should rescind the decision they have taken. Okay, accommodation problem has been, a major problem for University of Ghana. We all know that. We've tried, to, manage it. That's how come, in the traditional halls, the rooms, it used to be 1 in a room, but now it's 3 in a room. Okay. Now you're saying you're taking out continuous students out of it, not providing a new place for them all. It's still the old structures that are in place. You are going to add them up to, the existing. It's not the best. You understand? It's not the best. At least if you have even gotten new places for them to stay in, yes, then you've proven to us that you're on top of your game. You understand? But you've not done that. Yes, so we are compiling, and so we are just moving back to the old thing. The congestion we are trying to solve, we are now increasing it as not the best.
Okay. All right. I want to thank you very much for your time with us, Jeffrey Addo, who is an alumnus of University of Ghana, former resident of the Commonwealth Hall. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Right. You're welcome back. Now, the National Peace Council is demanding tougher sanctions on 2 errant radio stations that they believe are fanning ethnic tension in Bawku. The latest violence over the weekend claimed at least 7 lives, leaving several others injured. Now, many residents are reported to have fled the hotspot amidst fears of reprisals. Chairman of the National Peace Council, Reverend Ernest Edujemfi, is asking the National Media Commission to rein in 2 radio stations who they believe must de-escalate the growing tension in Bawku.
I'm trying to make sure I construct roads for the people of Bawku, provide them with water, give them necessary electricity to be able to do their daily activities. And this impunity keep on going. I think that there's a need for central government to take a holistic approach of this whole thing. People are running away from their homes from Dadue. People have vacated their residence in Zongo. Other communities where I live, a lot of people have moved out of those areas. What is happening?
Mr. Sanga,
for us to do something about it. The military actions alone in Bawku cannot. There is no 100% security in that. You cannot get 100% security. And those loopholes, Kusatis are losing, Mapuches are losing, majority of the people, Moshes are losing.
Now, the chairman of the Bawku Security Council, Amadou Hamza Zanga, who has ruled out a military solution to the conflict in Bawku, is calling for the central government to intervene to resolve the unending conflict.
We cannot be one agency alone to deal with this matter. We will not get around it. The Peace Council has been there for several years. The last 2 years, we've been moving in and out, and it's costing the nation a lot of money. everybody must be involved. The National Media Commission must get involved. Those two FM stations there must be held responsible for some of the things they do over there. So,
and what are some of those things they do?
There are the two stations belong to the two different factions.
All right.
And so everybody is doing his own thing. The Media Commission must intervene. And sometimes we think that they should shut down those two stations for a while. You know, so that nobody begins to fund all the things that are going on. There's a need for everybody to be involved. There are.
Right. Now, we must apologize. I think we played the sounds in the wrong order there. You just heard the Peace Council. But let's speak to Mr. Richard Kuma, who joins us, Kumado, forgive me, who joins us right now via Zoom with an update. Mr. Kumado, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kojo.
Now, I suppose the first question is to take up the point made by the Bawku chief executive, who says it's time for government to escalate issues there. You know, you're a security analyst. Tell me, are we at that point where it's serious enough for government to have to be called in?
Definitely. It's long overdue. And I think the ineptitude of the criminals in the streets is making civilians or innocent people die unnecessarily. And Ghana hasn't acted, or central government have not acted forthrightly or appropriately. And that has given them the credence to do whatever they want and run away.
Right. So, I mean, what form would that intervention take? We're talking military takeover of the whole township of Bawku. What would be an effective way for government to step in?
You remember when the president not long ago complained or lamented that issues of chieftaincy is draining the national security corpus, and Ghana is spending so much money on chieftaincy issues? The way we have handled this Bawku issue from a position of policymakers and from a position of national government has not helped our cause. I can't imagine somebody kills somebody in Accra and they hide behind chieftaincy and they are walking free. I think we must address this issue properly and address it from a position of law and take away all the lies about chieftaincy and why somebody is fueling the killing of innocent people and why some people should not be prosecuted. Now, when people call for government, all what they are saying is that let the laws of the land apply and let it be precisely as possible. And let's take away politics, number one. And number two, let's run away from the position of chieftaincy, which is fueling this issue. I've worked with the BNI for many years. I have been to Bawku several times. I have been to Yendi when our grandfather was murdered, the late Yana. And I've seen many of these cases and how politics and tradition and religion has been used as a pre-guise to commit crime and to commit murder, and people walk away.
Right, so you're saying full military intervention at this point. Forget about chieftaincy and all of that. No policy interventions. Military is what you're calling for.
Not necessarily military, but let's arrest the criminals. When you kill somebody, you should be tried and you should be treated as one. When you show somebody, then kill them. And even if we claim for all these years that these are fascists, two fascists who are fighting for a chief, and they are killing themselves. I don't think they are killing themselves. They are killing innocent people, and they know they can always hide behind this chieftaincy issue. And I think the state will have to be proactive. And let's address the issues of murder and criminality aside.
Okay, I mean, there's police. Police exists in Bawku. What stops them from simply doing their job? Why do you feel that the police intervention would work if it hasn't so far?
No, their hands have been held back. If you have been to the grounds at Bawku, you could see that we put the military in there. And if we treat the issues of Bawku as a national security threat, we would have dealt with it within 3 days. These are military officers who have been trained, and they are professionals, and they know what to do. Politicians put them there, and they hold their hands back. You put the law enforcement officers, particularly the police, as first responders, but you never motivate them or equip them and give them the full range to do the job. And the politicians keep coming in to lie to the people, that the people are on the ground, and that is why the issues are not being handled. Speak to the professionals who have been to the issue in the front line of Bawku, and they will tell you the level of underlying issues behind the scene and why they are not dealing with the issues as precisely as possible.
All right. So if you think that all it will take is the police to act and that their hands have been held back, what's your recommendation? Fresh boots from some other region sent in to do the job?
No, I think we need to address it from a security point of view. Let's address it from national security point of view. Let the professionals lead the discussion. Let the professionals deploy their own men and let them address the issues involved. When you kill somebody, you are a criminal. And when you kill somebody, you are treated as one. Where there are issues of traditions and chieftaincy, let those ones be dealt with from a position of traditions and chieftaincy. And I can understand the euphoria of the Peace Council, who do not have the capacity to influence many of these decisions, but they are just there to appeal to consciousness and to persuade people. Let law enforcement officers do their job and let tradition people do their job. Let us not be jangling them together and be hiding behind one in order to perpetrate crime and go. I cannot imagine somebody in the city of Adan or Accra kill somebody and run and say, I'm killing you because I belong to one faction of a tradition that do not want the other person. I think it is wrong. And as a nation, we have failed in this particular order.
The Peace Council is calling for the sanction of some 2 radio stations. What are your thoughts on that? Are these radio stations posing a security threat with their activities? And will a sanction be enough to bring them under control if they are indeed a threat?
Considering the volatility of the place and how saying the wrong thing using the radio platform can stir up anger, particularly when they have aligned themselves to one faction or the other. And if you understand the man from the Peace Council, he was saying that they keep fueling the fire. I think as media professionals, we will need to look at our profession again and abide by the code of ethics. But Kojo, then again, that goes back to politics and to policy. Who assigned them the licenses? Who monitors to find out whether they are behaving properly or not? And who calls for sanctioning? Is it the media houses themselves? Is it the media commission or politicians hiding behind again? I think when you flood the laws as a radio station or any other person, there are appropriate sanctions to be applied. Are we applying it to achieve peace? Are we applying it to achieve a strategic security objective? Are we applying it because somebody says it? Or somebody is lying again about this particular issue? But I want to appeal to my brothers and sisters in the media that please watch what you say and be mindful of the consequences of your actions because we are professionals.
Thank you. Mr. Richard Kumado is a security analyst. He's been speaking to us on the evolving situation in Bawku. Right, let's do some other stories. Now, the NGO Send Ghana has called on government to establish a public health emergency fund. In a statement released to commemorate International Day for Epidemic Preparedness, Send Ghana said it's making the call in the wake of multiple outbreaks of diseases including COVID-19, Marburg, monkeypox, and other recurring diseases such as meningitis and influenza. We're joined by Dr. Emmanuel Eifa, who's the Deputy Country Director for Send Ghana. Dr. Eifa, your statement talks about the recent multiple outbreaks. But why must we have a special fund to prepare for epidemics when we have disease control systems in place already?
Thank you, Kojo. Good afternoon and compliment of the season to your cherished viewers.
To you too.
Yes, today happens, of course, to be the 27th of December. It happens to be the International Day for Epidemic Preparedness. Yes, your question is apt. I mean, why do we really need to call for a fund to be established? You agree with me that since 2020, when we had COVID up to now, it really has lent us something that we need to look at. Clearly, one has to do it. We were not prepared for it, and it's because we didn't have the needed funds for that matter. But I believe that government was able to mobilize resources for us to be able to stem the tide. What we are calling for is that we wouldn't want another situation where another pandemic hit us and government then have to run helter-skelter to get money to fund the pandemic. It might interest you to know that Ghana has what's called the National Action Plan for Health Security, which has been costed. And so all the intervention with cost estimate, but then when COVID hit, we didn't have the means to fund it. And that is why we think that, fast forward 2022, we are now going to 2023. We heard about Marburg, we heard about monkeypox, and before then we had influenza and the like also hitting us. So what we are thinking is that if you have an established fund, like the way we have Get Fund, that is really supporting education infrastructure. If we have a dedicated fund solely for epidemics, solely for public health emergencies, we think that that is going to help. And indeed, if you look at when the government proposed the COVID-19 Trust Fund, you realize that Ghanaians willingly contributed to the fund. That shows us how altruistic Ghanaians are. And for that matter, they are always willing to contribute to a cause. So what we are calling for is for government to kind of change the COVID Trust Fund into an emergency preparedness fund, because the name says COVID Trust Fund. That tells you that it's basically solely for COVID. So we are saying that we have the trust fund that has been established by Act of Parliament already. Why don't you convert that into the Public Health Emergency Fund? So if you have any future emergency or pandemics, then that can be used for that purpose.
Right.
Another thing that we are looking at, because the question is, where do we then get the money to actually operationalize such a fund? One key source is that we also have what's called the COVID-19 Health Levy, which enjoins every VAT payment, 1% of VAT payment goes into that levy. It might interest you to know that in 2021, we roped in almost 889 million. 2022, this year, the budget that was read, it's about 1.141 billion. And then in 2023, we are projected to get around 2.5. So this is money that is going to come in as the COVID-19 Health Act enjoins us to get from the levy. The point is that there's COVID anyway, but what we are calling for is that the seed money for the Public Health Emergency Fund should come from the COVID-19 Health Levy. And then once that is there, of course, we'll look at other ways to get it sustained. As I said, Ghanaians are altruistic. We also did some study looking at people's willingness to pay to actually even contribute to vaccine in Ghana during the COVID era. We did what's called altruistic willingness to pay. That clearly showed that, yes, people are interested in contributing to a fund if and only if they are sure of what is going to be used for. And so that is what we are calling for. There are two things. One, government should change the COVID-19 Trust Fund into a public health emergency fund, and also channel resources from the COVID-19 levy as a seed money for the fund. That is what we are looking at. We are also suggesting that, when COVID hit, everything was at the national level. The district were looking up to the national level to help in the COVID response. So another thing we are looking at is possibly the District Assembly Common Fund, although there are challenges with it. But if the administrator can set up some percentage solely for supporting public health emergencies at the district level, that would also help. But all this one will still contribute to the fund that we are calling for. The good thing is that we have a World Health Organization and other international bodies who are also willing and ready to support various countries, but they have to see commitment. That is what is called counterpart funding. Ghana, we've not performed that well in what's called the joint external evaluations. And so WHO and the like are looking at ways to support various countries. So they support, but they need to see the country commitment. And so establishing such a fund is going to really help us to leverage on to get, of course, other external inflows as well. But we think that we need to first of all look inward, look within first, and then
All right,
once
Doc, let me ask you this. Get Fund, Heritage Fund, there isn't a single fund ever created by the government of Ghana that has been used solely for its purpose. It always ends up getting diverted for some other reason, including the COVID-19 Trust Fund. So what is it that makes Send Ghana confident that a fund created to manage epidemics will in any way help manage epidemics and not end up being used for something else, especially by a cash-strapped government such as we have today?
Kojo, you are right on that. I mean, citing the examples of the National Health Insurance and then the Get Fund. But you also agree with me that, I'm irrespective of the fact that sometimes there are diversions. Definitely, the very first thing they will look at is to allocate some for as education infrastructure, allocate some to the National Health Insurance Authority to make sure that they work. So, I mean, that is given. So I think, and some may think that that is a necessary condition to even help in terms of implementing public health emergency related diseases. The fact is that if you do not have such a fund, then you cannot point to one particular source that you can get it. But what we are even calling for is, of course, based on what you said, and that is the fact, is that in as much as we are calling for the fund to be established, we want it to be in such a way that nobody can just decide to come and then use the fund for whichever purpose that they think they have to use it. So we are even looking at, in terms of the management, who manages the fund and the like. So these are discussions that hopefully we will be engaging with stakeholders to kind of look at it and then see what can be done. But for us, the first necessary condition is that the fund needs to be established where we can really go there. That is the very first source. And then when that is done, we'll of course implore on government about the need to use the fund solely for the intended purpose.
Okay, thank you very much for your time with us. Dr. Emmanuel Eifa is the Deputy Country Director for Send Ghana. Thank you for choosing The Pulse. You're welcome back. Now, it's been nearly 4 years since the Attorney General commenced prosecution of the CEO of Menzgold, Nana Appiah Mensah, popularly known as Nam1, who is accused of defrauding by false pretense and money laundering. It follows persistent agitation by angry customers whose investments have been locked up at the defunct gold dealership. A number of the investors have died from the shock of losing their life's savings to the investment firm. Now, other disappointed cash-strapped clients are currently battling medical conditions with no help in sight. Spokesperson for the aggrieved customers, Fred Forson, joins me in the studio for a discussion about the plight. All right, let's come into the studio. It's good to see you, Mr. Forson.
Yeah.
All right, how was Christmas for you and your fellow Menzgold customers, victims? Which one do you prefer?
Kojo, you know, I would say that Christmas was celebrated by Ghanaians minus Menzgold customers. I mean, that's why you don't need even any testimony from us, because for 4 years, your intro, those who have died, and the excruciating pain that we are going through. Just this morning, I was even engaging with some of the customers, and it's very serious. Yesterday, I was telling Fred that as a leader, not myself, the other leaders doing this fight with me, we have daily, weekly requests from our members to support them. And this Christmas, we have a lot of requests. I wish that maybe in the new year, somebody listening to me would even ask that, do you have somebody, any of your customers in need? Like, I will give you like 10 people. What to eat? Some of them are widows. Some of them have been ejected from their very homes. There is this lady that the husband was a customer. He died. And the in-laws have asked her to vacate the house. So there are a lot of them. School reopens, I think, next week. There are those whose children are going for the senior secondary, the SHS, and the continuing ones, even what to get to enable them go back to school is a problem. And so, Kojo, I don't know why, after all this, the consistent, persistent agitations on the streets, government doesn't seem to empathize and even really come to terms with us. Like we were saying of the principle, I don't see why they don't want to come to the aid of Menzgold. Because our story is not a bad one. I always say that they should be able to separate the sins of the leaders or the management of Menzgold from that of the customers. Because we thought we were doing a good investment, and this has happened. And to even make our story real, just before we came to, for the holidays, we saw what happened at Databank. So that one too, whose fault? So we must all understand that it can happen to anybody.
Well, I mean, let's also be fair. In the case of Menzgold, there was over a year of warnings to you investors from the regulators, from government, from watchdogs. Everybody said, you guys, be careful. This thing cannot last. Pull out. You didn't. So can you really align yourselves with customers of Databank?
No, what I'm saying, I don't want us to waste much grammar on that, because we've had for 4 years, I'm sure we have had a lot of discussions about that. But all I'm looking at is that what happened to Menzgold can happen to anybody, irrespective of whether you are right in the sight of those who think we were wrong, or whether you were wrong in the sight of those who think that, or who thought that Menzgold was wrong. I'm only looking at it that it can happen to anybody. In fact, calamity affects both the good and the bad. But when it happens, how you are able to handle it. And in this case, our trump card is the fact that this is a democracy. And it's our understanding that a democracy must be able to deliver. It must be able to deliver good to its citizens. That is what is lacking in this Menzgold issue. Kojo, could you believe that before September, we petitioned the AG and the RTI that before then we had gone to Yoko and we were told that the asset of Menzgold had been sold. So we went under RTI and asked for certain disclosures, specifically to disclose to us how much was realized from the sale of those assets. As I speak to you now, AG has not been able to tell us how much was realized from the sale of those vehicles.
How long ago did you make this request?
September.
Under the right to information?
Yes.
And they have not responded at all?
They wrote to us, after 1 month, they wrote to us and said that they were, the law said that if they were not in the position to give us immediate response, within 1 month, they had to come back and tell us that we are in the process of compiling the information that I requested for. Yes, that one they complied with it. But from September to date, this is just a simple sale of assets of Menzgold, assets belonging to Menzgold. And as we speak, to even tell us, oh, we had 1 million, or we had 2 million, or we had this, so that we will have some comfort and know, okay, this amount has been realized in the name of Menzgold.
But just a moment, if you have not heard back from the Attorney General's office since September, does that not breach the right to information law?
I'm sure it's a breach. And we are in the holidays, we are thinking of the next line of action. Maybe when we resume, when we come back in January, we'll pursue that, because we don't think that is right. That is one. We also petitioned the presidency in September. For the first time, the President of the Republic delegated a senior member to come for the petition. As we speak, we have not heard anything from them. And life keeps on deteriorating day in and day out. So it's very disheartening. It's like we are not part of Ghana. So as for the Christmas, dear Kojo, we didn't celebrate Christmas. It's only grace that is keeping us.
Now, the Attorney General's office is also prosecuting Menzgold for defrauding by false pretenses and money laundering. It's been 4 years. That case has not really progressed. How does that make you feel?
I'm sure you recall the disclosures by the Yoko boss. And from that time, true to her words, nothing has happened because the people who were in charge of the investigations said there isn't much to prosecute the gentleman about.
Let's be clear. I mean, the Yoko boss has clarified her statement. What she said was that there is a need for more laws so that when things like this happen, prosecution is easier. Because under the existing laws, it is difficult. I mean, she made that clarification.
I love the word, difficult. So difficult in prosecuting him. And the state wants us to put our faith in that prosecution. This one. Kojo, I want you to be our counsel today. If we were to rely on this prosecution, what would be your advice to us?
Actually, that was going to be my next question. That what are you hoping if this prosecution were to go ahead and be concluded and he were to be found guilty? What are you, as a Menzgold customer or victim? You haven't told me which one you prefer.
Even in the prosecution, we don't know the type of reliefs that the state is seeking. Whether
it's a criminal case,
it's going to lead to the retrieval of our money.
It's a criminal case.
If it's a criminal case,
retrieval is one of the options.
Good. If it's a criminal case, then it means that even when prosecution is secured, if they secure judgment, it will still come back to civil route that we need to go on these civil remedies that we are
Not
deploring.
necessarily. A judge could rule.
Okay.
That,
Okay. So that may be one of the reliefs or one of the things we may get from there. But for 4 years, like you said, over 100 and almost 200 people have died. Precious lives. The last one we buried was in October, Nana Kisi. Very giant, energetic man died at 37 in my presence with another leader. And we are witnessing some of these things, and the state is doing nothing about it. We have spoken, as for this house, multimedia, right from day one. You have been with us. You have been with us. You have given us the opportunity. You have given us the platform every time, every day. And I'm sure the policymakers, they listen to it. Last, I made an appeal, and today I want to make it again, that you were a minister in this government. I want 2 or 3 of you to put your heads together and say to yourself that as for this Menzgold issue, we want to see to it that it is resolved. It should be a target. It should be something that, it should be a project that at least, so that we can remember you for. Because, Kojo, what we are doing, we are fighting for the very people who are in power today. So that the next time, your descendants will not come and fight a similar fight. That you go and do an investment in a company in Ghana. Then when such a calamity happens to you, the state will fold its arm and say that we have nothing to do with it. We don't think that is proper. And that is what we are fighting for. So we are not only fighting for today, we are fighting so that it will be a precedent, so that nobody will take the advantage of vulnerable people, scam them, present a scheme which was seen as a scheme, but later on turned out to be a scam, and that person will go scot-free. That is what we are fighting for. So it's not only our money. Yes, our money is the immediate result that we want, but it will be a precedent. That is what we are fighting for. So if you have power today you have power. Today you are in a position to help us get this financial freedom. I want you, as a Minister of State, be part of it. And the President of the Republic, please, we are pleading with you. Show us compassion by ordering the payment of our money. We know you have the authority. We know you are able to do. It's within your powers. If you instruct the finance ministry or whoever is there to do it on our behalf, you can really do that because you have that power to do it.
Right. So it's been 4 years, at least since the prosecution began. But some of you actually gave your money to Menzgold more than 4 years ago. I wonder, after how many years will you and majority of your members feel like this is now water under the bridge and time to move on?
See, I keep on saying that we are not going to stop until our money is paid. So that one, we have made the state aware, whether in this life or in the next life to come.
Paid by who?
The state.
So you no longer are expecting your money back from the man who scammed you. You now want the state
for now,
to pay you for what he did.
I think I've said that, this one I've said it several times, that the very day government went to Menzgold and shut it down, the responsibility of paying the customers shifted from the company to government. That is why we're even pursuing the Attorney General under the RTI to disclose to us the asset in their possession and how much was realized from its sales. That is it. But that one there is basic. It should be basic to all of us. All so right. For the man, because the man's bank accounts and everything has been frozen by the state. So even when you go to him, he will tell you, I don't have any accounts. I am bankless. I don't have any account to pay you from. Everything's with the state. That's why we are going to the state. And we believe that the state has that responsibility.
Right. Fred, before you leave, you still haven't told me, are you a Menzgold customer or a Menzgold victim?
I am both a customer and a victim. Could you? Why?
Well, okay. As things stand now, do you prefer for the world to see you as a customer, somebody who went to do business and, you know, have ended up out of pocket? Or are you a victim? Were you scammed?
I wouldn't say scammed, because as we speak, there's no evidence that we were scammed, unless the outcome of the court comes. And for 4 years. So that one, you know, that word may be a legal term, but what we know is that we were customers who went to Menzgold and our monies are locked up. That is why we are fighting for the release of the investment that were locked up. Until the court pronounces that we were scammed, then that will be another conversation that we can go into. But for now, we were customers who did investment in a company that was acknowledged by the state laws, and yet when this unfortunate incident happened, we are not hearing from the effort of the state. So I want to use this opportunity and appeal to my fellow customers that I know it's very difficult. Yesterday, our platforms, over 50 of them, there were a lot of lamentations and people were crying. Some people were calling me, want to give up. I want to urge you, life is more important. And there's a saying that though it tarries, it shall surely come to pass. I want you to hold your life together. Life is more important. As we go into the new year, we will continue to pursue our money, and we are very, very hopeful that we shall retrieve whatever is locked up.
Fred Forson, thank you very much for spending time with us this afternoon.
And I appreciate it to you.
As much as it is possible, I hope you have a Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
All right. Government is threatening to withhold feeding grants and teacher trainee allowances to colleges of education across the country if they admit students beyond the quota set for them. The Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, in a letter addressed to principals of colleges of education, directed the schools to admit a defined number of students for the 2022-2023 academic year. We have been joined on Zoom by Jonathan Junu, National President of the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana, to explore this. Mr. Junu, what do you make of this directive? Mr. Junu, I hope you can hear me. Thank you for joining us. What do you make of the directive to principals of colleges of education to admit a quota of students?
Thank you very much. I think that the directive to admit students based on the quota, it's something that is very disturbing. If you look at the differences in the numbers, even if you look at the number of students that just came out of the college that has the level 400, about 28,000. And if you look at the total enrollments for this new academic year, it's about 9,000, which means that a lot of people will not be getting the opportunity to go into the colleges and then be trained as teachers. And I think that is very, very much disturbing. And as a country, we really have to sit down and then look at that going forward. It's not something that we should actually encourage. We understand that there is infrastructure deficits in the college, the various colleges, which in a way will make it difficult to bring in more people. But why don't we just maintain the number that we used to admit, so that it will actually hold it there, rather than cutting down the number?
I wonder if you're aware that Ghana is seeking an IMF bailout. The government is broke. They can't pay their bills. Does that not explain the reason why they would want to limit their capacity of how many students they actually fund through this process this year?
Yes, it's very true that the country is being rolled on an IMF program, but that also doesn't mean that we should do away with the fact that we need to train more teachers to go out there and then teach children as far as the basic education system is concerned.
Government is unable to employ the numbers that they are training today. There are teachers, nurses sitting at home waiting to be posted because government doesn't have jobs for them. What seems to be, in your mind, the benefit of training large numbers only for them to go and sit at home?
Thank you very much. I think that looking at where you are taking it from, then the conversation shouldn't be that because government is unable to employ people, we shouldn't train more. The fact is that why are we not able to employ more people? Is it because government is unable to pay bills? Is that the understanding? And per this letter, I am sticking to the letter. If you look at the directive, the directive isn't coming because government is saying that they are unable to employ more people. If you read the letter very well, the reason they stated, it's none of this was mentioned inside. So it will be very difficult for me right now to lead the conversation on that line.
What reasons were stated from your reading of the letter?
All right, so if you read the letter, the directive was that the quota has been given, and then principals must stick to it because that will inform payment of teacher training allowance and then the feeding grant.
Yeah, so no reasons were given.
Yes, these were the two reasons.
So all we have is the simple fact that last year government paid for a certain number. This year they want to pay for a smaller number. Those are the facts we have. So just on the basis of that, would you not imagine that it's simply an affordability issue?
Yes, so like you mentioned, these are the reasons that were given by government. But are we doing away with the fact that we need more teachers out there? You see, we've come to a situation where we actually need to sit down as a country, look at what the problems are, and then find a solution. I believe that if we have issues of accommodating the students, all of them on campus, then we have to create a system where some students or some parents will agree that, okay, we have a system where the colleges can only take maybe 1,000 people, but if you want your ward to be enrolled, maybe you would have to seek accommodation for the students somewhere. We have to think around the issue this way so that we don't reduce the intake. Well, when we do that, we are denying people the opportunity to go to be enrolled into the colleges and then be trained as teachers.
Okay, so what are some of the suggestions that you have so far communicated to government on this?
Of course, on this, we are, the decision came just recently. We are making preparations to meet government on it and then suggest ways to them going forward, which we would like to meet them before we put the issues in the public space.
Yeah, so I suppose you could share some of those suggestions with us.
Yes, that's what I have mentioned earlier on, that one of them is the fact that we can open the system where some parents would have to agree that, look, if there's a number we can take only 1,000 people. So if you want your ward to come in, maybe you'd have to be able to pay for his or her accommodation so that that student wouldn't be in the boarding system because the boarding system is full. These are one of the ways. Or you would have to agree that, okay, if I'm coming in, then I would have to pay for fees. That's another option. And the rest, like I said, I can't put all the solutions out there until we meet stakeholders and make it known to them.
If government suggests the scrapping of allowances, just so that they can take in more students, would you go with that?
I think that on the issue of teacher training allowance over the period, government has never mentioned that it's one of the reasons why they cannot take more people until we get to that stage where government will come out to say, this is the reason we can't pay teacher training allowance. And it's one of the reasons why we can't take more. I don't think it's advisable we even go on with that conversation.
But I think
from
you and I,
we've heard from government.
I think between you and I and the public, we can still have a realistic conversation. And that realistic conversation cannot exclude the matter of cost. It costs a lot for the government to pay teacher and nurse trainee allowances. It costs a lot. So if government says, look, this quota thing is a cost issue, the solution is to cut costs, we propose the scrapping of the allowances so that we can take in more, what would your position be as a leader?
So until we get to that stage where government comes out to say this is a decision we are taking, it will be very difficult for me to give an opinion on something that doesn't exist. So until we get to that stage, and then opinions will be coming in. And as we speak, government has never mentioned to us as the student leadership or to the populace that this is a situation they are facing. So it will be very difficult for me to be assuming for government and saying that, okay, if you come in with this decision, this is how we are going to respond to it. Until we get to that stage, it's very difficult for us to take a decision.
So what you're telling us and your members is that as leaders, you haven't anticipated this possibility. You don't have any contingency plan for such an eventuality.
Of course, we are leaders that things ahead and then possibly look at things that will be happening in the future. But you see, even if we have taken a decision on this issue, it's very difficult for us to communicate it out there until the government comes out to say, this is our position, or this is the decision we want to take. It will be very difficult for us to be saying that, okay, government, this is what we are thinking. And then based on that, you should also think this way. No. What we know right now and what has been communicated to us is the fact that government says they are able to pay the teacher trainees allowance, they believe in the payment of the allowance. So that is what we are, that's the path we are charting now. Until it changes, it will be very difficult for me to make any decision. We may think that, okay, this may happen in the future. So what if I come out to say something and that doesn't happen?
Right. So you suggested earlier that maybe one of the solutions could be that new entrants could pay for their own accommodation, for example, pay their own fees. Would you go further and suggest that new entrants perhaps should find their own allowance?
Of course, if this is becoming a decision that we all have to take as a country in making sure that we shoot up the numbers, we maintain the numbers, it's laudable. I remember we went for a program somewhere around June, July on this same issue on how to promote teacher education. These were some of the solutions that came in. And at that program, there were people from the ministry, GTech, the colleges, we were all there. And these were some of the suggestions that even came up.
Okay, and you say that's laudable, right?
And then my expectation or what we were expecting is that if for anything, the numbers should have been maintained. Because if you look at the new enrollment, the figures that have been given is around 9,000. And if you look at the people that have gone out, I mean, about 400 that just went out, it's around 28,000. So you can see a very big difference in numbers.
Right. So it would be laudable for new entrants to be asked to find their own allowance, as long as you existing trainees continue to get allowances. would seem we have lost the national president of the Trainees Association. All right, the police service says its surveillance and monitoring of faith-based organizations has been activated to ensure conformity with the law. The police, in a statement, notes the law on the communication of prophecies is still in force. The law particularly prohibits the public communication of doomsday prophecies, especially of death and harm, and similar ones with the potential of leading to the breakdown of law and order. The police says it has consequently instituted the 27th of December, today, every year, as Prophecy Communication Compliance Day. Let me bring you details of the statement released by the police. So it says in the first paragraph, under the statement heading, Police Reminder on Illegal Communication of Prophecies, it says, a year ago today, December 27, 2021, the Ghana Police Service drew the attention of the general public, especially members of the religious community, to the law regarding the communication of prophecies and urged compliance to the law to ensure continuous security and law and order in the country. We wish to commend the public, particularly religious groups, for their cooperation over the period by being circumspect and conscious of the law and adopting legally acceptable means of communicating prophecies to those affected. This has contributed greatly in creating an environment where people are able to freely profess their faith without unnecessary anxiety and fear of impending harm or death. Ghana is indeed grateful to the religious leaders in particular and the religious community as a whole for their patriotic understanding of the situation. As the year 2022 draws to a close, we wish to once again entreat the general public, especially faith-based groups, to ensure continuous compliance with the law as it relates to the communication of prophecies. Let us continue to remember that whereas we have the right to practice our faith in religion, freedom of worship and speech, this right must not be exercised in violation of the rights of others and the public interest. As part of sustaining the gains made so far, the police service has adopted 27th of December of each year as the Prophecy Communication Compliance Day. This day is being set aside to remind all of us to practice our faith within the confines of the law to ensure a safe, secure environment free of anxiety generated from predictions of impending harm, danger, or death. We wish to take this opportunity to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. This is signed by Chief Superintendent of Police Grace Ansa Akrofi, who is the Director of Public Affairs. Now, thousands of patrons thronged the Ebri Botanical Gardens to participate in this year's fun-filled Fritol Joy FM family party in the park. For many, this was arguably the best time spent with family. Michael Ashali was there. He has the details of how it all went down yesterday.
On Boxing Day, the Ebri Botanical Gardens was the place to be as it hosted thousands for the Fritol Joy FM family party in the park. They enjoyed the company of their families or simply danced to tunes blasting from the speakers. For many, it was time to wind down and spend good quality time with family.
I think it's great and it's fun. So you can come here with your family and have fun.
Okay. So your family, what have you done?
For now, we are enjoying ourselves because it's a long time seeing each other and sitting down like this.
Oh, it's been very nice. I'm very happy. This is my first time coming, but it's been very nice. I'm extremely happy about it.
Wait, what's your name?
Elvis.
Elvis?
Yeah.
Elvis, are you enjoying yourself?
Yes.
Wonderful. Give me 5. Yeah. Wonderful.
Very exciting. Very, very exciting. It's my first time, and I'm so glad to be here. There is no place to be than here. Yes.
But you didn't come alone, right?
No, I didn't come. I came with some friends. They are in there.
We've been having fun. Eating, walking about, playing with kids, yes.
Why is this special?
I think to have fun with family, sitting together as family and having fun. Yes, it's very special.
Why? Is it because the whole year you haven't had the opportunity to do so?
Yes, the whole year it's been working, going up and down. We've been busy, so we've decided to use today to have fun and sit down as a family.
Oh, we've been dancing, having fun. The children went to the bouncy castle. So we are cool. We are just having fun.
For the kids?
Wow, if you missed that, please don't miss it next year. It was a fabulous time at the party in the park. All right, it's been a fabulous time this afternoon with you on The Pulse, and I can't wait to do it again tomorrow. Until then, stay with this station for the duration. Coming up next, let's talk showbiz.